Great. So again, thank you so much. Warm greetings from Broadcom and from Distilogix. We're happy to have this first training on the enterprise SONiC provided by Broadcom. The enterprise SONiC provided by Broadcom is the that distribution of SONiC that was modified by Broadcom to be probably as a red hat when it compares to Linux. Today's session is driven by Mr. Kamran. We're so happy to have him with us today. Such an expert when it comes to open networking and SONiC. He's an architect, a senior architect at Broadcom, and the training will be run over 3 days. So we will be meeting every day at the same time. There are prerequisites that we shared earlier with you guys. Mr. Kamran will go through them again. Those prerequisites will give you, when you have them ready, will give you the chance to have hands-on experience rather than just watching the training slides and stuff like that. Without further ado, Mr. Kamran, thank you so much. I'll pass it to you. Please go ahead. I know there are some stuff that you want us to send to the attendees also because it will be used in 90 minutes. But leave it to you, Mr. Kamran. Thank you so much for your support to our region.
My pleasure. Thank you very much, Mohit, for the opportunity. Thanks to Distilogix. Welcome, everybody. Ahlan wa sahlan, khush aamdeed. This is the first day of the 3-day training that we plan to run with you. It's going to be a 2-hour training every day. Ideally, I would like these type of sessions to be as interactive as possible. 2 hours is a long time, and it's if it's less interactive, sometime it gets a bit sleepy. I also have this kind of God-gifted quality in my voice. When I speak, people start feeling very sleepy. So my request would be to everyone to stay interactive, and I think we can interact through chat. Is there any chat option here, Mohit?
Yes, there are chat options that you can use to communicate. There is questions and answers that you can raise questions. And if you guys want, just raise your hand and we'll give you access to ask you a question, and then talk to Mr. Kamran directly. So all these options are there. Please keep it interactive. Yeah.
Sounds good. Sounds good. So I think maybe I can start with a little introduction about myself, and then we can talk about the topic. So as Mohit mentioned initially, my name is Kamran Naqvi. I'm principal network architect at Broadcom. I'm based in the UK, and I cover the whole EMEA region. I lead this open networking initiative for Broadcom for whole of EMEA. So that covers Europe, Asia, and Middle East. I've been in this industry for over 22 years now. Started off as a Cisco trainer. So my first 5 years of my work was teaching. And I think that kind of defined myself, defined my personality. I love teaching. That's why I'm very happy to be here and talk to you guys. And then I worked for some system integrators. For a long time, I worked for a small time, I worked for a couple of years, I worked for AT&T. So got some experience with MPLS and VPN and those type of technologies at AT&T in 2005, 6, 7, those 2-3 years. And then I joined Cisco and I worked for Cisco for over 12 years in different capacities. But my main focus in the last 5 to 6 years at Cisco was on data centers and ACI and those type of things. And then I joined Broadcom in 2019 in this pre-sales role. So now I've been with Broadcom for over 3 years, and it has been a very interesting journey with SONiC. So let's start by introducing SONiC, and I'll tell you more about my own experience about SONiC. So it's not going to be just a kind of a sales pitch. I'll try to be very honest with you. I'll share with you, what I like about it, what I don't like about it, and what we are doing about it, where we are going with how we are going to even improve the solution even more. So at any point, please feel free to raise your hand and ask question. I can go faster, I can go slower, but I will need your feedback for that. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. Can everybody see my slide deck? I hope. Mohit, you can see my screen, right?
I can see it, yes.
Awesome. All right. So I think when I go in this presenter mode, I won't be able to look at any questions, etc. So Mohit, please feel free to alert me if there is any question, and I will also be taking breaks in the middle to see if there are.
Yes. Oh.
Okay. So, all right. So this is, as I said, this is a 3-day training, and the agenda for day 1 is in front of you. So I've already introduced myself. It's a large audience, otherwise I would have loved everybody to introduce you. I looked at some of the emails, and it was very exciting to see that we have people joining from all the way from South Africa to Egypt to Middle East to different other countries in India, Pakistan, etc. So very happy that we have a very diverse and large audience here. So I'll start with SONiC introduction. I'll talk about why customers are adopting SONiC. And then we will delve into SONiC use cases. And that is where we are going to spend probably most of the time today. We'll talk about, what are various data center environments, what are different, for example, campus environment where SONiC can be used today, and where it cannot be used today. I will also mention that. I will talk about the different flavors that we have for SONiC packages, talk about what are the hardware platforms where we support it. And then I will talk about some industry analyst view, what people in industry are talking about SONiC. And then we will change gear, and I will move into more of a kind of a deeper level discussion about SONiC. So I'll talk about the user interface, the low level, stuff. So what are different user interfaces? How can you access SONiC? How can you configure SONiC? Mohit very kindly shared with you some instructions about how to install a lab in GNS3 and how you can install SONiC there. I don't know how many of you have done it. If most of you have done it, or some of you have done it, that would be awesome. We would like to do a lab. And once again, the reason for doing this is we want it to be more engaging for you guys. We want it to be more fruitful for you guys. And you can enjoy it more if it is, if you can kind of play around with it and it becomes more real for you. Right. So before I start my presentation, I often start by referencing this presentation, which was done by some very interesting people. So this presentation was mainly done by James Hamilton. Some of you may know him. He's the chief architect of Amazon Web Services. And with him, there were very interesting people like Albert Greenberg, Dave Morse, who are basically the chief architects of Azure. So these people gathered together in 2012, about 12 years ago, and they talked about what are some of the inhibitors in the scaling of a cloud network, of an overall cloud infrastructure. And their view was that the cloud data centers are inhibited because of networks. And the title of this presentation was Data Center Networks Are in My Way. Why? It's a large, it's a quite big presentation, and I will share with you. There are links available for this presentation. You can just Google it and you will find it. It's publicly available. I'll just give you a gist of it, why he was saying that networks are in the way of scaling of the cloud data centers. He said first thing was that because of network being oversubscribed. Remember, we are talking about 2010. It puts a restriction on the workload placement. You cannot put your workload anywhere that you want. You have to put them closer to your server, to your storage, for example, so that you can get the proper throughput that you need because of the oversubscription. And because of these restrictions that network is putting, you are not able to get most out of your most vital investments in the data center. Remember, network is not the most expensive item in a data center. If you look at the cost of network, it's about 8% of the data center overall data center infrastructure. If you include the running cost of network, it's about 12 to 13% of the overall data center. So it is not the main cost of a data center. The expensive item are the servers and storage, right? So because of the networks, they were saying we are not able to get most out of our most valuable investments. We cannot get the optimization that we need. Networks are in my way. Second thing they talked about was that networks, because networks compared to their footprint, they take a lot more power. They are very power hungry. So remember, we are talking about 2010 is when I remember I was part of Cisco and we were moving customers from Catalyst 6500 type of platforms to more Nexus 7K type platforms. And the problem he was mentioning was that he was saying that not only that the networking equipment take a lot of power, it's very power hungry, the trend is going upward. The new generation of switches are taking even more power. And he called in his presentation, he said, these are the SUVs of a data center, right? Like the Jeep, because they take a lot of resources. And finally, the most important point I think he made was that he said the networking business model is broken. Why? Because it's a proprietary, it's a vertically integrated model. When you buy a switch or a router from a networking vendor, it's a black box. It is running a proprietary software on a proprietary piece of hardware. He compared it to Linux, sorry, he compared it to servers and said, we love server model because there is a competition at the CPU level, there is a competition at the server level. You have the open operating system like Linux available. None of that is available in the network arena. And that is why he said, network is in my way. And when they talked about solution, so remember, we are talking about these, all the kind of the gurus of cloud networking. And they said the solution should be based on merchant silicon, which means open silicon, right? It should be hardware independent, and it should also have a open operating system as part of it. So the reason I gave you this long history and story is because that is exactly what Broadcom is doing. We agreed to their vision, and that is what we have brought to the reality. So if you remember, 30 years ago, we saw a trend in industry where people moved from these Sun Solaris and these Spark machine, this big, giant, expensive servers to a more straightforward x86 based hardware and Linux operating system based solutions. Server industry has moved on, and now we are seeing the same trend is happening in the networking world. Today, nobody knows about Spark or Solaris. There may be some people on this call who are young, who wouldn't probably have ever seen these Spark machines and Solaris, probably more than I have, or people of our age have seen these, right? We have seen this trend. That same revolution is now happening on the networking side. Now, and the trend has been started once again by the mega scalers, by the Amazons and the Googles and the Azure of the world. They are saying, we do not want to use these vertically integrated, these big giant machines anymore. We want to use open silicon-based solution, and we want an open source operating system as well. That is where the industry is going now. Trend started, as I said, by mega scalers, and now increasingly adopted by service providers and also by the enterprise network as well. And I'll give you reference customer examples. I'm just not making this up. It is actually happening. The revolution is happening around us already. Now, we believe at Broadcom that in the open, when the merchant silicon market, Broadcom has the same status as, for example, Intel has on the x86 market. Broadcom, and I'll give you some examples. And on the operating system side, SONiC is the operating system which is becoming Linux of networking. So as Mohit said in the beginning, SONiC, and it's not just me or Mohit, talking about it. You will see all the industries talking about it, that SONiC has the potential to become the Linux of networking. And with our solution, the good thing is that there is a support available. So what is the overall solution that we are talking about today? It is a data center Ethernet switching solution. It is based on Broadcom silicon-based switches, where hardware is available from multiple vendors. I see there are some questions probably in chat. I'll look at it after this slide. So the hardware is available. You can see there are multiple vendors available, so people have a choice. Acton is probably the most popular one, but Dell is there, Extreme is there, Quanta, Celestica, and the list is increasing. All of these can run this operating system called SONiC. It's an open source operating system, and we at Broadcom have our own distribution of SONiC. So like Linux has many distributions, SONiC has multiple distributions. We are today talking about Broadcom distribution of SONiC, which has enterprise class features and come with full support. So is there any question at the moment, Mohit, that I need to look at?
There are a few questions, but they're answered. So simply people were asking about if there is a lab, and yes, there is a lab. I just emailed you guys the lab sheet for that. And mainly some people could not use the chat, so I made sure that it is enabled. So yeah, I think we can proceed.
Perfect, thank you. Right, now, I said, Broadcom is known as a merchant silicon vendor, right? When people talk about Broadcom, think about silicon, and there is a reason for that. If you look at all the mega scalers, you look at Google Cloud, if you look at Microsoft Azure, you look at Alibaba, you look at Tencent, Facebook, any of these mega scalers, all of them have built their data center based on Broadcom silicon. And what these guys do is they do not go and buy a solution from Cisco or Juniper or Arista. They buy these silicons from Broadcom. They are our biggest customers. And then they get these white box manufacturers in Taiwan or somewhere else. They get them, they say, okay, use this silicon and build me a switch based on this. And they give the specifications. So that is how they build their own switches, and they're on their own operating system. And that's how they're moving to SONiC. So one of the reasons why Broadcom is considered a leader in merchant silicon, you can see this slide is showing what we have been able to achieve over the last 10, 12 years. And that is doubling the bandwidth and performance, doubling the bandwidth and density, port density, every 18 to 24 months without changing the cost. And that's exactly what these cloud guys have been looking for. So recently, in August, we launched, so just last month, 4 weeks ago, I think, we launched this Tomahawk 5 silicon. It's a 51.2 terabit silicon in one chip. This is the highest bandwidth silicon in industry, double the bandwidth of any other competitor, right? And you can see the previous one came, which was at that point, the highest bandwidth chip was 25.6, Tomahawk 4, which came in 2020. So every 2 years, Broadcom has been able to double the bandwidth and performance over the last 12 years, and that is how we are where we are. Now, what is the benefit of this high-speed silicon to, for example, enterprise customer? I assume, Mohit, that most of the participants we have today, they're part of some organization, or most of them probably are part of some system integrator or reseller organization, right?
Yeah, yes.
And they are exactly, and you guys are looking at it and thinking, what is there? What's in there for my customer? So your customers are probably service providers, or your customers are enterprise customer, a bank or a retailer, etc. Your customers are not going to go and buy silicon from Broadcom. But the benefit, that the reason I'm telling you this story is, reward is reaped by everybody. How? Look at what you see on the left-hand side. This is what Facebook tried to do a few years ago. They tried to build this, well, they built this 128 port, 128 port, 100 gigabit per second switch. And to build this switch, they had to use these 12 silicon, right? Now with the 12.8 terabit per second silicon, sorry, this is once again the older generation that I'm showing you because it's there in the market everywhere. You can get the same performance in a pizza box type form factor. So you can get the similar performance in a much simpler hardware. And not only that, it simplifies the hardware, it also it also reduces the system power. As you can imagine how much power is used for all these running all these modules, etc. It reduces the system power and it also reduces the system cost. So these are the benefits in terms of hardware, but also remember another important thing here. When you simplify the hardware, you also simplify the software. Writing software for this type of solution becomes much more simpler. Why? Because remember, I know you guys are technical, so you can appreciate this point. Getting these 12 silicon interoperate together, work together, is a very complicated task in software. You have to continuously align the tables, match the tables across all these silicons, right? Because the outgoing traffic can be taking any port. And that is where a lot of bugs are introduced. And because of my previous 12 years at a company that I talked about earlier, I know a thing or two about bugs, right? There are a lot of bugs which are introduced because of these complicated hardwares. Thanks to these simplified hardwares, writing software has become simpler. And that is why you see there is a plethora of open source operating system out there. You may have heard about Stratum from Google. You may have heard about FBOSS from Facebook, right? There are other operating system out there. There's Pika 8, there is Cumulus, there's so many, right? Why there are so many operating systems now out there? Because of thanks to the open networking, because of a simple hardware, writing software has become simpler. Now, we at Broadcom, we are a big believer in disaggregation, right? We want customers to have options, but we know that customers will only adopt open networking. They will only adopt our silicon-based solution when there is a credible operating system option out there, right? So that is why Broadcom supported Stratum. We supported FBOSS as well, but we saw that the whole industry is converging towards SONiC. So SONiC basically originally came from Microsoft, and they wrote it for their Azure cloud, right? They actually got it as in while when they did their acquisition of LinkedIn. So in 2016 they got it, and then in 2017 they made it open source. And Broadcom has been supporting SONiC since day one. Now, since 2017, SONiC has become a lot more mature. So in 2020, this was an announcement by Microsoft that the whole of the Azure networking, Azure is one of the largest network in the world, as you can imagine, whole of that network is running on 100% wall-to-wall on SONiC. It's also being run in Tencent, in Alibaba, um, and many other networks. I can mention some of the names which are our, for example, reference customers. So Comcast, for example, you may have heard about it. That was our first reference customer, which deployed SONiC in production in 2020, right? More recently, you may have heard about Deutsche Telekom. Deutsche Telekom is the largest telecom in Europe. They have deployed our solution, and they will be going with me to OCP Summit in San Jose in California next month to talk about their solution. So I can publicly talk about it already. Now, why people are moving towards SONiC? Let me give you another data point. I mentioned Stratum, which has been Google's open source operating system. Interesting thing is, recently SONiC moved from OCP to, and it has now become a Linux Foundation project. So it's even bigger audiences there. And one of the 6 main players in SONiC, obviously, Microsoft is there, Broadcom is one of them, Dell is one of them. One of them is that an addition is, guess who? Google. So Google has also joined the Stratum story is still there, but they have also realized that SONiC is the solution that everybody is adopting, and they have also joined this bandwagon as well, right? So why people like SONiC? What is so special about it compared to other operating system? One of the main things that people really enjoy, so I would like your attention on this one. SONiC is built on Linux base, like many of the modern operating system these days. And SONiC has this layer called Psi layer in between, right? It is also open source, right? It comes as part of SONiC. Psi acts as a translator between the silicon and the SONiC. So it talks to the silicon SDK and it talks to SONiC. And because of Psi, SONiC is independent of hardware. SONiC can work with Broadcom silicon, but it can also work with Mellanox silicon, Innovium silicon, Cisco silicon, Juniper silicon, and so on. It is a disaggregated operating system thanks to Psi. Another very important thing about SONiC architecture is that it is a containerized architecture, right? So it, rather than, if you look at, for example, NXOS or iOS, more or less, they are all monolithic operating systems, right? SONiC is a totally containerized architecture. Each of the major component in SONiC run in its own Docker container. Now, what is the benefit of it? It gives you two benefits. Number one, it provides serviceability. Think about it. If there is a bug or there is a vulnerability in, say, DHCP feature, right? If some of you have an experience with Cisco, I had a lot of experience working there. You remember Cisco sends something called PCerts twice a year, right? Which are security vulnerabilities. Every time security vulnerability comes out, people, all my customers were very nervous. I was part of Cisco Professional Services, Cisco Advanced Services, and customers were like, okay, which bomb you gonna send on me, throw on me, right? Because they were running. So my customer was here, a large bank who had like 12,000 Cisco devices, and a PCert will come every 6 months and say, okay, your devices are vulnerable to this security issue. And now they have to upgrade all their operating system, the 12,000 devices or 10,000 devices. Big job. With SONiC architecture, look at this. You do not have to upgrade your whole operating system. It is a Docker container. You simply patch the DHCP container and off you go. And if you have some experience with Docker, they are really quick, right? So this serviceability becomes very easy. And that's one of the reasons why all the cloud providers and service providers love it, right? The second thing is extensibility. Think about it. If you want to add a new feature, you do not have to muck about with your core fundamental features of your operating system because they are running in a different container altogether. For example, Broadcom, we added a new management framework to SONiC. And you know what we did? We added a new container and we added the management framework there. We added all these GNMI capabilities, etc., these Yang models. We added it to that container. So that's why extensibility of SONiC is amazing. And I'll talk about it, I think on day 3, I'm going to talk about monitoring, where I will show you how other third parties are now running their containers. And I'll give you 2 examples of customers, Deutsche Telekom and Align, which is a corporation in Japan, how they are running third-party containers on SONiC in their production network. So that becomes very interesting. So SONiC architecture is one of the reasons why SONiC is so becoming so popular. I will talk about what we did, what Broadcom did for GNMI, RESTConf, and OC Yang. We added all these things so that we tried to make SONiC more enterprise class. So when SONiC initially was released, obviously was, as the name suggests, software for open networking in the cloud. Focus was cloud. Right? We made it more enterprise class. Even enterprise data centers can run it. So you do not have to do any screen scrapings. You do not need to run any custom scripting to manage a SONiC system. You can use open tools like GNMI. You can use open APIs REST-conf-based APIs, and OpenConfig-based YANG models. So you can very easily manage this type of operating system. Any questions so far?
I think we're good. I cannot see any questions or answers, but as I said, guys, you can type any questions in the chat or questions and answers. And if you want to talk directly to Mr. Kamran, we'll be happy to allow you to talk. I think we can proceed.
Excellent, excellent. Now I'm just taking it's my way of taking a break and having a sip of water, but also I'm kind of encouraging people to ask the question. I'm sure we are not very shy, are we? Right? So we can ask questions. Okay. It will also tell me that people are listening, right? They're not watching something back in the background for Netflix. I know sometime I do it in the boring trainings. Fadi is saying it is clear so far. Thank you, Fadi. All right. SONiC community. This is, once again, I think I should update this slide. This is like 3-year-old picture. It has now become even bigger, but still it gives a good idea. The point I'm trying to make here is that if you look at SONiC community, people who are supporting SONiC, you will see there are options everywhere. If you look at
I guess we lost Kamran for a second. Kamran.
option for SONiC. Celestica is out there, Delta is out there. Cisco, Arista, they say they support SONiC. They are like, you can imagine, like any other OEM. Obviously, they do not encourage people to go there. So they say, yes, we have a SONiC story. We support it. When you talk to them, in the third sentence, they will say, yes, we support it, but why you want to do it? Why not buy an XOS and so on? But still, the option is out there, and they have to do it because customers are demanding it, right? So options at silicon level, options at switch level, option at management level, right? For monitoring, there are multiple options. For orchestration, there are options, and so on. So when you think about SONiC, when customers look at SONiC, they see SONiC as something which are giving them freedom, right? So I use an analogy for mobile network analogy, compare SONiC with other things. So for example, think about when you think about other operating systems, Cisco, Arista, Juniper, like, for example, iPhone. You can get the hardware from Apple and you can get the operating system from Apple, and it is closed, right? And they will continue to sell you same model, change little things here and there, and that's it. This is iPhone 14 now, spend more money, right? SONiC is like Android, right? SONiC is like, today you get this phone from Samsung, tomorrow you can maybe get it from Nokia, then you can get it from Huawei, and then so on, right? It is the same operating system, and you can continue to change hardware as you seem fit. And that is something which customers really like. So I'm going to give you 3-4 data points here before I move on. So Comcast, these are all publicly available information by these companies. So references here, they talked about this in this conference called NANOC. We'll share a PDF version of these slides, so you will have the references as well. So Comcast, as you know, is a service provider in US. They said why they are choosing SONiC. This sentence is very interesting. They said, what if the whole world spoke just English or Arabic, right? Just one language so everybody can understand. And that is where they are going with their approach. They want to use SONiC everywhere, right? People are already, we won't probably have time to talk about it in this training, maybe sometime else, but SONiC is already getting into the smart NIC side, on the server side already, right? And Microsoft is talking about load balancers and firewalls, and we are also doing something, but at this point, we can't share publicly a lot more. But on this, just to give you an idea that this vision, this is not just Comcast vision that the whole world just spoke English, right? Many people are looking at SONiC and they think they want to use it everywhere. Why they want to use it? Reduce cost. This is very interesting sentence. No more hostage to vendors. So for example, Comcast, they use Edge Core, right? But they also have Dell. So if they it gives them a lot of negotiation power if you think about it, right? They want to build another pod, they can go to Dell and say, what is your lead time, when can you give me these switches? They talk to Edge Core. Now it's their choice, they're not hostage to any particular vendor. to, Tomorrow they may go and use a third hardware vendor. It's the same operating system. They are using the same management tools to just manage it. It doesn't matter to them. So they have a multi-vendor and chip diversity. At this point, they are using Broadcom silicon, but they said openly, they're saying that we want chip diversity. So at some point they will deploy another pod from a vendor, from a competitor, for Mellanox or whoever, right? They have the option, but they want a commercially supported solution. They want a solution which comes with support. You do not want to run a solution in your production network which nobody's supporting. This is the slide I built based on what you call it, panel discussion, which happened in OCP, and there is a link here. It's available on YouTube. Yeah, the panel was led by Microsoft, and these guys were available there from T-Mobile, from eBay, from Criteo. And this fourth one this is a separate conference, which it's part of KubeCon. Some of you probably know KubeCon is a conference by Linux Foundation. And that's where Deutsche Telekom guy came and he talked about. And they gave many reasons for why they are adopting SONiC. So I'm not going to read all of it. You can read it when you get a chance. At a high level, they're talking about they want a single NOS, but multiple vendor hardware. People are adopting SONiC because of the automation capabilities it provides, because of the higher level of availability and stability SONiC provides. It's a much simpler operating system, right? It's a much leaner operating system. If you look at number of features, you'll probably see, Cisco is providing that many features compared to that SONiC provide less number of features, right? And it is intentionally kept at that level because that is how the cloud data centers are built. Lean, some important features, and then a lot of features on observability and rapid troubleshooting. That's the cloud way, and that is where the whole data center world is going. Okay, so I'll skip the details on this slide. I just wanted to highlight these couple of presentations. I'm highlighting these because you can mention these names when you are talking to your customers, right? Because they are public reference. So there is a YouTube link for this presentation as well. This is the presentation I did last year with at OCP Summit in San Jose with the EPFL. So EPFL is a university. If some of you have any customer in the education vertical, you can go and talk about, for example, EPFL, right? And this is a publicly available presentation where they talked about why they're adopting SONiC. Similarly, AT&T, they talked about their adoption of SONiC. And that's very interesting because AT&T has a different approach. They are basically, they connected SONiC, integrated SONiC into their own orchestration solution. So they have abstracted out the hardware. They use SONiC based on Edge Core switches and Dell switches in the same way they use Cisco switches or Juniper switches, right? So listen to that presentation if you have time. And these are the two presentations I'm doing this year, next month, at the OCP Summit in San Jose. The first one is with once again, an education customer, university in Austria, in Vienna. They're called FSTW. And the second one is with Deutsche Telekom. So customers are adopting SONiC. Why they're adopting it? Because of the automation capabilities, because of the high availability SONiC provides, because they want to build their private cloud along the same line as the public cloud. They do not want any vendor lock-in. So that's another key point. Why adopt SONiC? No vendor lock-in. You get it from Edge Core, very good solution, very stable, very popular, but you're not tied to them. If you don't like them tomorrow, if you want to negotiate, you can go to somewhere else. You go to Quanta or whoever, right? And it's an open source operating system, right? There is no kind of there is no what's the word for it? The perpetual license for it, right? To buy it. We provide license, that the customer will buy that, but that license is for three things: for updates, upgrades, and support. If customer does not want updates, upgrades, and support, they can just continue to run it without any license, right? So that's another beautiful thing about SONiC. Open source, and it's available on GitHub. You can go and look at the source code, so you can understand what is running underneath, not hidden, no black box. And there is a large ecosystem of partners. That's another beauty. That's kind of a sign for the popularity and the adoption of an open source solution when you have a large ecosystem. And that is what you will see. That large ecosystem results in a gravitational pull for that solution. And that's what we see with SONiC. There are many benefits of running open source. We all know that it's open, it's interoperable. You can, source code is available. That's why it's secure, it's customizable, it's cost effective. Absolutely, much cheaper than the, Cisco's or Juniper of the world. But then there are some challenges with open source. Is it easy to deploy? Many people that they heard about SONiC and they say, oh, this is nice. They download SONiC, community SONiC version from GitHub, and they said, we can't even run it on the hardware, right? Because is it not that easy to deploy? An elephant in the room is always who will provide support. You may have heard this statement, right? I was part of Cisco, so I remember, we used to say it. Nobody is fired for buying Cisco. Why? Because if something is broken, there's very good support that Cisco will provide, right? So customer want a solution which is fully supported. And they want a solution which has a predictable roadmap. So if there is a feature which is not available today, I want to know when this will be available. It should be predictable next quarter, the following quarter, and so on. And we just do not want an operating system. We want a qualified solution, right? You cannot just have an operating system and run it in the air. You want the hardware for it. You want optics for it. You want a management solution for it, orchestration solution for it. So you need to have this full solution. So we saw that gap. We saw in 2019, I'm talking about, we saw that there was, SONiC has the legs to become the Linux of networking, but there is a gap that people want a Red Hat version of SONiC, a SONiC version which is enterprise class and which comes with full support. So working very closely with Microsoft in 2019, Broadcom made a big bet on SONiC. We've been supporting SONiC since 2017, but that was at the SI level to make our silicon work with SONiC. From 2019, we started working on the whole stack of SONiC at the SI level, at the application layer, at the management layer. We have 200 plus engineers team just focused on SONiC. And this team has been working very hard. That, by the way, the head of the team of this team is the head of software in Broadcom. It's the same guy who was head of software of NXOS operating system at Cisco. I knew him when I joined. He also joined 6 months before me. And this team has been working really hard. Not only we have hardened SONiC, so we fixed, I don't want to mention the number just here, but a very large number of bugs which were available in community SONiC, we fixed those, right? So we hardened SONiC. We made it more mature, but then we started making it more enterprise class. So Broadcom added features like flow analytics. We added features like VXLAN. We've added features like EVPN, the multi-tenancy feature, time synchronization feature. And not only that we added those features, then we upstreamed it. They are available in community SONiC today. It took them a time. It took them, I don't know why, but it took them nearly a year before adopting everything in community SONiC. But Broadcom built those, developed those, and upstreamed to the community version as well. And we also added this, what we call industry standard CLI. So when I joined Broadcom in 2019, I was really impressed by the pitch which was done to me about open networking, where the world is going, and I've seeing it, being in the industry for so many years, I could see that was happening, right? When I first looked at SONiC, my first impression was, my God, what have I got myself into? Because my impression was, this solution, I cannot sell it to any bank, right? Because the CLI was a bit complicated. If some of you have worked with community SONiC, you would probably understand where I'm coming from. In the community SONiC, you would configure, for example, VLANs in one mode, one type of configuration command, CLI, a different type of configuration, the FRR, the VTY shell for routing. And even if you wanted to configure a port channel, you had to go and configure in a container to bring up your port channel. So I was like, if I take this solution to a service provider, that's 2019. If I take it to a enterprise customer, and I was working with a lot of bank at that time, they're just going to throw me out. This is not workable. So what Broadcom has done is we added this industry standard CLI to SONiC, and I will show you that. That's part of the lab today. And if you have done, CCNA type thing, if you know a little bit of, Cisco, Juniper, etc., you will see it becomes very easy for you to run SONiC solution. The commands are industry standard, which means very similar to Cisco type configuration, right? And there's a commitment from Broadcom that will continue to support SONiC on every new generation of silicon. We have already started supporting it on TD4, Trident 4. There will be a Tomahawk 4 based solution coming out very soon, and Tomahawk 5.
If allow me, we have Nawab Muhammad that asked, will these slides be shared with the attendees?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah. So we will share a PDF version of these slides. Absolutely. Okay. Thanks for the question, Nawab. We are not just talking about SONiC. We are eating our own dog food, right? We are practicing what we preach. We at Broadcom has deployed SONiC. We started our deployment in 2019, actually, and it's continued to grow. We have now over 2,000 switches running in production in 7 data centers across Broadcom. I'm connected to VPN, so at the moment this call is also going through a SONiC switch when it is getting to you. I hope it doesn't start breaking now. This was a risky statement to make. Anyways, all right. We're getting into the SONiC use cases. I hope I'm not boring you guys. You guys are very quiet today. Okay. I hope we get a chance at some point, Mohit, to have a face-to-face session with all these guys as well. Yeah, maybe Dubai or somewhere.
Yeah, be happy to.
Yes. Okay. So the use cases of SONiC. The first use case is the no surprise there. That's the scalable layer 3 fabric, the underlay. That is how all the mega scalers work, right? They use the underlay. And this is a very mature use case. We use BGP at a very high scale and a very mature and stable use case. And you can see the monitoring options out there. You can see the orchestration options out there. BGP is the most popular one for all the mega scalers, but OSPF option is also there. Just in case if somebody's wondering, you can use OSPF as for underlay, or you can use BGP. Both works fine. I'll talk about it later. I think I was going to talk about what I'm seeing, which people go with OSPF plus BGP combination and what customers go for BGP only. I'll probably talk about it a bit later. The second use case is for somebody who is a VMware shop, right? With VMware, and this slide was there before Broadcom said that we're going to acquire VMware. Hopefully this, if this things goes ahead by the end of the year, you will see a lot more, hopefully a lot more integration. But at the moment, we already have a lot of integration with VMware. So if you have a customer who's running NSX, SONiC solution can become a very good underlay for them, right? And we are integrating with something called the Smart Fabric Director from VMware, which is a orchestration solution, like an automation solution, configuration solution, right? For the underlay. So you can use Smart Fabric Director to configure all these switches through SFD. And then you can use NSX Manager to configure your VXLAN, your Geneve tunnels, your overlay. So that's how you have the whole SDN solution. And you can use vRealize, and there are AIOps solution and another solution. I'm going to touch on them. Okay. Then I saw there are like 2 or 3 questions about labs, so people are probably getting bored with the slide.
There is a question, if you allow me, Karan, and I guess it's a good question, but I don't know the answers. The answers actually, it says if someone, Mr. Abdussalam, if someone was able to exploit a vulnerability in the kernel level, like the dirty cred that allows you to exploit Linux by like replacing non-privileged credentials with privileged credentials, and like it abuses the stack of memory and stuff like that. So he says if we like if someone was able to exploit such a vulnerability, will he be able to get privilege to change the container configuration and network configuration? Do we have any vulnerabilities reported from SONiC related to kernel level privilege access and privilege management? Because I don't think that's
not that I'm aware of. Not that I'm aware of so far. No.
Right. It doesn't apply here because the difference is that not only the Linux, it's not compared exactly one to Linux, although it's based on Linux, it has been containerized and it has been hardened. So it's a bit different. I'm not aware of any such vulnerability of SONiC, even the community version.
Correct. Okay. This is the most popular use case for SONiC, multi-tenancy with VXLAN EVPN. And that's where, you can create your own tenants. You can create, you get all the benefits of the overlay. You have this layer 2 extensions on layer 3 network, and you can create this multi-tenancy for micro-segmentation and so on. You may have heard about Apstra. So Apstra is it used to be like an independent solution. Now it has been acquired by Juniper, but they still fully support our distribution of SONiC, and Apstra is a very good orchestration solution for SONiC. It's a bit expensive, but still it is very good. So EPFL, I gave you example earlier, the university in Switzerland, they use our solution and they use Apstra for the orchestration. Okay. Right. Moving on. Data center interconnect. So, there are multiple options for data center interconnect. The most popular one are probably the multi-pod, where you have active data center, where you can share the services across, right? You can have maybe firewall load balancer in one data center only on one pod. The other pod can also use the same services in the other pod. And you have this multi-fabric architecture where your tunnels are just local and you normalize traffic as it goes between the data centers. So you have a total isolation between the data centers. This is how you create different availability zones, right? But you lose your VXLAN header, so you lose your overlay information. In this case, probably the best option or the most popular one is now multi-site option, where you get the best of both worlds. You have your kind of isolation of control plane, because you are creating an extra layer of overlay on top. So you have this control plane isolation, but you can still carry your VXLAN information end to end. So you can extend your layer 2, you can extend your VPN information, your tenant information across all the sites. And still it gives you this these kind of the control points for applying your filter or applying your kind of the security checks. So there is no fate sharing between the sites. I think I'll skip this slide. And this is our kind of the newest use case, the latest use case that we started supporting earlier this year, end of last year, earlier this year with SONiC 3.2.2. The campus use case. So now the world, the industry, they want to use the same architecture in the campus as well, right? Think about it. The old campus solution is all based on this access, distribution, core, this 3-tier architecture, right? And the 3-tier architecture, once again, they put a lot of restrictions on you. You want to extend your layer 2, and you will always have these issues with spanning tree, right? And customers are looking for a solution where they can just remove the spanning tree issues totally, right? And you can do that by adopting a layer 3 solution, right? So you have, once again, this total layer 3 based fabric. And if you want to extend layer 2 anywhere, you can simply do it with overlay, with VXLAN EVPN. So the same technology, same command line interface, same monitoring solution you can use that you're using in your data center, now you're using in the campus as well. So my presentation that I talked about at OCP Summit with FHTW, the university in Vienna that I talked about, it is this story. They deployed SONiC in their data center, and they said, we want to extend it to the campus side as well. Let me tell you one more thing here, guys, today. You will notice that today's presentation will be different from tomorrow and day after tomorrow's. So my today's presentation, most of this presentation will be what I call my pre-sales presentation. So this is how I'm kind of preparing you guys, how you can go and talk to your customers about SONiC. So most of my presentation today is like the technical pre-sales. What are technical capabilities and what are the values of it? What are the use cases? That's today's presentation. By the end of it, I will switch gear and I will go more into what we call kind of the post-sales type of information, where we talk about, okay, customer has bought the solution. Now let's look at how that solution works. And there I will talk about the CLI. I will show you how it is configured, what is the look and feel of it, how you run commands, and then I will show you how to do the basic configuration. I will run simple pings, then I will run OSPF over it, and I will show you how to exchange routes, etc. So
allow me, Kamran, if you allow me, there was a question also from Mr.
Please.
In campus, we should have connections between the spines, like if you have two spines, like the MLAN connection between those spines, or interlink connection, sorry, between the spines. So
you don't. Yeah. So the answer is you don't, right? My recommendation would be go with the traditional clause design even in campus. The reason is, can you do it? It's a kind of a personal thing, right? I'm having the same discussion, by the way, with FHTW as well. The thing is, people have this idea in mind that distribution switches should be connected to the outside world, right? When they look at spine, they think, oh, they are going to the distribution switches. They are used to of looking at a diagram where these distribution switches are connected to the outside world. They are their control point. You can do that, but then you are limiting your options. Why? When you want to do this type of connectivity, who asked this question? It was like, I think.
Yeah, Hammam, yes, in the chat.
Okay, Hammam. He was in the chat. Okay, so yeah, Hammam asked this question. Yeah, so Hammam, very good question. So when you want to do this type of thing, if you want to have your, for example, layer 2, layer 3 boundary on spine, you don't need it because it's all layer 3. When you want to have these kind of exchange between the campus and the, for example, your internet border or your firewall from spine, you need to have your spine configured as VTEPs. You will be terminating your VXLAN tunnels here, because only then you can de-encapsulate the traffic and then you can send it out. So you are adding another functionality on spine. My suggestion is you can do it because there are a lot of Trident 3 based spine switches out there, right? But you will, in my view, you will limit your options, because in future, the main purpose of spine is to provide you high capacity traffic sharing, right? The main purpose is to just at a very high speed, at a very quickly, just switch the packets. That's it. And you will be better served if you have spine based on things like, for example, Tomahawk based solution. They are cheaper and give you more bandwidth. So today you may see, I can buy this Trident 3 base switch and it can work as spine as well and gives me VTEP functionality as well. Remember, tomorrow you're going to upgrade your bandwidth. It's going to be 100 gig or 400 gig. And at that time, If you have this type of architecture where your spines are VTAP, it's going to be very, very expensive for you. Okay, so can you do it? Yes. Do I recommend you do it? No. So use your border leaf, I would say. So with the campus, we are, providing features like PoE, PoE plus, PoE BT, and so on, LLDP MED for IP phone and all those. So all that type of connectivity is done. You have your 802.1x, your map type functionality that is there. So you have your admission control, access control available. We integrate with Cisco ICE. We integrate with Aruba ClearPass, and we already integrate with FreeRadius. And if the customers require more type of integration, we are open to do that as well. So this is the campus solution which is available today. Customers are already deploying it. What we have also added here is something called a new monitoring solution that we bought called AppNeta. I don't have time to talk about it in detail, but AppNeta gives you a very good visibility of your end user experience. So from branch to, for example, data center, or from branch to cloud, if you want to understand what is the user experience, you can use AppNeta for it. And AppNeta monitoring point, which is a key component of AppNeta, it can be run as a container on a SONiC switch.
There is a good question also from Rani, if you allow me, Mr. Mohsen. He asked, what links required to run DCI IP underlay feature? It works over the internet or one MPLS link of kind of links only. It's the QA.
Yeah, okay. So for DCI, I mean, depends on which option you're going for. For a multi-pod or multi-site, you just need to have IP connectivity, right? It could be MPLS, it could be SD-WAN, it could be a lease line, whatever you want to use. There's no restriction. If you are going for a multi-site type option, then you will need not only layer 2, layer 3 on it, IP connectivity, you will also need layer 2 connectivity on it. And in that case, your options will be limited. You might get some VPLS and MPLS and so on. But for multi-pod and multi-site, which I believe everybody should be going for, no restriction. As long as you're happy with the quality, as long as you're happy with the performance, the capacity that you're getting with the link, no problem with that. Any option would work. Hope I answered the question. Okay. Moving on. Now we are getting into something very interesting, and that is
I'm sorry to keep interrupting you, man. It's just because we moved
go on.
Different topic now. So Mr. Ramzi is also asking about, do we need a controller to manage this spine leaf architecture, like an SDN controller, stuff like that?
Yes. So very good question, Ramzi. So the answer is no, you don't have to, right? But some customer, for example, there is a big French bank who are adopting this solution. And the funny thing is, they were my customer when I was part of Cisco. And I basically was, the lead architect for their ACI design and deployment. And now they are moving to SONiC-based solution. Now, because they are moving away from an SDN solution where they had a Cisco APEC, where everything was configured from controller, they want similar type of solution here. And for that, the best option is to go with Apstra. So you have all the SONiC solution, and you have this Apstra orchestration, and you just configure, you just express your intent in your Apstra solution. It is an intent-based networking solution, IBN solution. You express your intent, and it will go and configure your SONiC, which is your leaf, spine, whatever. Another good thing about Apstra, Ramzi, is that it is not specific to SONiC. As you can imagine, it's open networking. So Apstra, it works with SONiC. It also works with Cisco, with Juniper, with Cumulus, with so on, right? So customer use it to. I have a customer in Germany. They use Apstra, and they have a pod of Cisco and a pod of SONiC-based solution, and they manage everything using Apstra. Okay. Any other question?
No, we're good. We're good.
Okay. So just to summarize that, You have the option to use
Go
SDN
ahead,
type
Ramzi.
solution.
Ramzi said one more question. Go ahead, please, Ramzi.
Go on, Ramzi. Ramzi, also, if you don't mind mention where you are based. You're based in Dubai or somewhere else?
Ramzi is based in Lebanon.
Oh, wow.
One of our resellers there, yes. Anyways, type it. And we will continue. We will answer it once it's there. Okay. Go ahead, please, Mr. Apologies.
I was just about to impress him with my Arabic knowledge. I was just going to say, Kaifa haluka ya Sheikh? And Ana ajlis al kursi. That's the end of my Arabic. Okay.
Now you got the question. do we need to log in to every leaf to configure it?
That's the other option, right?
Yeah. So in case there is no controller.
In case there is no controller, yeah. So the options you have is you log into every box and configure through using CLI. That is what we're going to do today, right? We're going to have a small 3-switch lab, 3-switch topologies, 2-leaf, 1 spine, and we will configure them individually. Second option is you use DevOps model. A lot of the customers, I think probably majority is now looking at DevOps. They're looking at Ansible, they're looking at Puppet, Chef, those type of things, right? That's another option. You can get your DevOps to configure it. Do we need to specify the node mode as spine or leaf? No. You will see Nawab the configuration in a minute. Yeah, but good question. You don't need to. So the second option is DevOps.
Yeah. Do we need to specify the node mode as spine or leaf?
Yeah. So I just answered that. Yeah, I'm looking at the chat. So no, you don't. You don't need to. And the third option is this SDN type option where you use an off-the-shelf orchestration solution like Apstra. And there are others, by the way, and configure it. So AT&T, for example, have a solution they call SDDC, Software Defined Data Center Solution, where they have their own orchestration engine for it. And you can get this managed service. So customer can get this service directly from AT&T, and AT&T will manage it for them. So it will be SONiC-based switches with Acton or with other hardware, and AT&T is managing it. They're using their own orchestration solution. They also give some access to customers. So customers also have, through their orchestration engine, they have some access. Okay, good. Thanks for the question, Nawab and Ramzi. So moving on, guys, we are now talking about visibility. I'll try to finish this in 10 minutes and move on to the lab. Should we do a 5-minute break, Mohit, or do you think we are okay to continue?
That's up to you. I believe we're okay to continue. Yeah.
Okay. So the in-band, I'm going to talk about some of the very interesting silicon-enabled telemetry feature, right? I'll start with IFA. So IFA is a feature. IFA stands for in-band flow analytics. Hope you can see on my screen. IFA is a feature which can give you a hop-by-hop latency of every packet of a flow at a nanosecond accuracy. So this is a type of feature which can very quickly tell you that if there is an application performance issue, is it caused by the network or is it caused by something else? So you remember that, whenever there is any issue in application or any issue in IT, who is the first one to be blamed? We, the networking people, right? So much so that you may have heard, we came up with this term that mean time to innocence, right? Have you heard this term, MTTI? Why we use this term? Because we are always at guilty until proven innocent, right? We always have to prove our innocence, that network is not at fault. So IFA is a type of feature which can very quickly prove that you are innocent. So it can improve your MTTI or mean time to innocence. But for congestion monitoring, we have this feature called BST, buffer statistics, where we can directly read the buffer utilization from the silicon. So we can very quickly predict if there is going to be any congestion in a certain part of network. So Alibaba, for example, they have done a presentation about it at OCP. They have a large network, as you can imagine. They use this feature to do traffic engineering. They would look at, okay, they can create some heat maps. So heat maps, as you can imagine, which part of their network is busier, which part is not, and they can see, okay, this part is now getting busier. This is my very important application. I'm going to use traffic engineering and move the traffic to another path. Very interesting feature to give you very good visibility. Um, and finally, mirror on drop. So this is my favorite feature, mirror on drop, by the way. Um, Mirror on drop can give you an understanding of why the packet drops are happening in your network. And I'm going to start in more details with mirror on drop. So why packet drops matter? Packet drops happen in the network and sometimes for a good reason. But we also know that for certain type of traffic, when the packet drops happen, it can have a negative impact on the user experience. Your shopping will freeze. If they, we're using voice over IP here, the voice become choppy or the video start freezing or pausing. And it can happen because of number of reasons: for misconfiguration, for security attack, for overutilization, for congestion, for protocol issues, and so on. Mirror on drop. This is the Broadcom silicon feature where we can define our interesting traffic. And when a packet of that interesting traffic is dropped, usually when a packet is dropped, it is just gone. It just goes to some bit heaven or somewhere, right? Nobody knows about it. But with mirror on drop, we mirror the packet. We make a copy of the packet, the first 128 byte, and we send it to a collector. And we do some intelligent bits with it. We send the 128 bytes, so we send the metadata information. Your collector will know, you will know which flow is impacted: source address, destination address, port number, right? So you know who's sending the traffic, who are the users who are impacted, and the most intelligent bit there is a drop reason. And we tell you why the packet drop is happening. So you will know that the packet drop is happening due to for example, a missing VLAN. It is happening because of a VXLAN translation error. It is happening because of a hardware misprogramming error. So you will know this at a very detailed level, right? You know the exact reason why the packet drop is happening. And once you know it, it becomes very easy for you to troubleshoot the solution. So normally what happens, if you think about it, if you are a support engineer, when would you know there is an issue? Generally, when customer will start complaining about it. Oh, my voice is very bad, right? My video is bad. My application is slow. You get a complaint, a ticket is raised, and then you look at it. With this type of feature, you become proactive. With this type of feature, even before the first customer started to complain, you know this was an important application. When the first packet dropped, you got an alert on that particular switch in your network. This traffic is being dropped because of this reason. And now you can very quickly go and fix it because you know the root cause very quickly, right? That is why you see the mirror on drop, it can reduce your root cause analysis dramatically, right? From hours to days, and it can reduce it to minutes. I will don't skip this part of this automated triage. This is a feature that we have added to Broadcom's AIOps solution. Now, Broadcom has a monitoring solution, AIOps solution, but SONiC works with any open with any monitoring solution. You don't have to have AIOps. With our own solution, what we have done is we have taken it to the next level, where you can kind of have a self-healing network, where when mod will tell you that this is the reason for the packet drop, this is the problem. AIOps knows the configuration. It can compare the configuration or say this VLAN is missing. It can go and configure that VLAN. So even before a ticket was raised, you will find out this was the problem and the problem was fixed. There is a demo video for it. I won't run it now, but you will have the link and you can run it and you can watch it. Okay. A quick example of IFA. This is a real customer example where customer was having a VDI issue, right? They were saying the VDI experience was very bad. There were delays, and they started troubleshooting. Obviously, network was at fault, right? They said, "Oh, you are the problem. Network is causing the problem." They did, use the standard tool, SNMP, etc., ping, traced out. Nothing came out of it, right? And then they connected the server with the same switch and the user. So they kind of removed the network from there, and the problem was still there. And then they said, "Oh, right, network is not at fault, right? It's some other problem." So it took them, I don't know how many days to get to that point. You don't have to do that if you have a solution like IFA. Why IFA? Why in-band flow analytics information is so credible? Because you are measuring the latency, you are measuring the network matrix on the actual user traffic. So what we are doing is when the packet, actual application packet enters the network, we attach a header and we attach the metadata information, what time it entered the network, what time it exit, which port it exit, which queue it exit, all that information. Packet goes to the second switch, and the second switch in a cumulative manner add its own header. So now there are two sets of metadata information, same information. Now the second switch will tell this the timestamp, this time it entered my network, this time it left my network, my port, and so on. Only the last switch, if it's a 5-clause topology, then it will be the fifth switch. If it's a 3-stage, then it will be third switch. It will strip off all these headers. Third switch will also add its own metadata information and will send it to your controller. And it's an IP fix format. So it could be Broadcom AIOps solution. It could be any other solution. And now you can look at it and you can tell hop by hop exactly how your traffic is being treated. If there is any fault because of your network, it will be highlighted here. If it is not, you have a very credible proof that we measured these on the actual user traffic, and we can tell that at a nanosecond accuracy, I can tell that the network was not at fault. This was the latency which is expected. So you can very quickly improve your mean time to innocence. So you can prove a problem is because of the network or not because of the network. Okay. Any question at the moment, Mohit?
I think we're good to go. We're good to
go. So there are multiple options for orchestration and automation. I think these questions were asked by Ramzi and other friends. You can, as I mentioned, you can have DevOps option. It's becoming very popular option. Ansible, Chef, and so on. You can use automation solution like Apstra. There is an open daylight-based solution. There are other solutions which are coming in market, right? We are working with some partners and they will be launched very soon. And there are multiple monitoring solutions out there. And I will talk more about monitoring on day 3. There are some interesting open source third-party solutions coming out for monitoring, and they're open source. So I'll mention those as well. So this is the solution. You have white box switches from Edge Core or some other provider, as I mentioned. You have this SI layer, you have your SONiC, and you have a management framework over that, and you can use multiple options to manage your network in a very easy manner. Open APIs, open standards. There are 3 flavors of SONiC which are available. There is a cloud flavor, which is available, which does not have any VXLAN VPN type solution, right? It is, we call it cloud because you only need underlay. There is an enterprise option, the most popular option, which has all the options for underlay and overlay. And there is this new campus option, which is focused on campus, which has features like this PoE or LLDP MED and these different type of spanning tree protocols. And it still has this BGP VXLAN VPN. It has .1x that control admission control type solutions as well. So these are the 3 flavors or 3 packages available for SONiC. For cloud and enterprise, you can get it in base version, which has good telemetry and monitoring option, or you have advanced option, which gives you this silicon-enabled telemetry that I just talked about, this IFA and MOD and BST. There are over 45 platforms available today which support SONiC. These are the options from Acton, from Edge Core. The TD4 option and Tomahawk 4 option will be coming very soon, but these are the ones which are already available today. These are some of the options with Dell available. DD4 is already available at Dell at the moment, you can see, and Tomahawk 4 as well. And these are some other, for example, there is Quanta available, there is Celestica and Alpha, and more are coming on board. There are 2 options available from Extreme as well, which is an OEM, as you know. So you can also run this solution there. For campus, these are the options. Some of these are not available today, but most of these are already available. Okay, so what is the solution? You get the hardware from your choice of vendor, for example, EdgeCore. You get the software from us, and you get the support from us. The first and second line support comes from our partner. We have multiple partners out there. And then the third line, the main support, the deep level support obviously come from Broadcom directly. We have Sinat with us today. He's one of the lead support engineer who supports SONiC for various customers. He will be presenting tomorrow to you. This is a slide on the left-hand side. This is from Microsoft. This was from Microsoft keynote keynote presentation, where they talked about who are the contributors to SONiC. Broadcom is the largest contributor to SONiC after Microsoft. And the distribution that we have, it is joint venture between Broadcom and Dell. So if you add Broadcom plus Dell contribution, we are probably bigger than Microsoft, right? There are other people out there who also do contributions, but you can see their number of contributions are compared to Broadcom are quite less. Then in the Linux Foundation, the founding members now, the kind of the main board members for SONiC at the moment are these 6 people. And you can see one of them is Broadcom. You also have Dell there. Google is the new entrant here. So now it's 7 actually. So Google is there as well. Microsoft is there as well as NVIDIA and Intel. What are industry analysts saying about it? So Gartner has been predicting, this is an old one from 2020. They said that there is a very strong possibility that within the next 2 to 5 years, SONiC will become analogous to Linux. That's 2020. And then in 2021, they said that our prediction is that by 2025, in the next 3 years, 40% of organizations which operated data centers with 200 switches or large, which is most enterprises, they will be running SONiC in production environment, right? So just look at this and think about 40% of the market in the data center networking is moving to SONiC. This is the Gartner's prediction. And we are seeing, we can see it happening already, right? IDC, similar prediction from them that they say Linux of networking, SONiC is becoming Linux of networking. And they say by 2024, in the next 2 years, it will be a $2 billion market. So this is the right time to, in my view, this is the right time to learn SONiC. This is the right time to join this bandwagon, because that is where the industry is going. So this is really that time to kind of upskill yourself, learn, familiarize yourself about SONiC, so you become one of the pioneers in your region for this for this whole movement that is ongoing. The same movement that we saw in the server world 30 years ago, that is now happening in the networking world, the movement for moving from proprietary solutions to these open networking solution. Okay. I will skip this slide. You can read it, marketing material, but all fact, you can use this, you can quote these, you can tell your customers that, you know, what other people are already, who are using what they're talking about it. Why SONiC? Just to summarize, and that's the last slide from this section. Why SONiC? Because you can build your private cloud, your data centers along the same lines as the public cloud networking. Same type of scalability, high visibility, and high availability. You can optimize the utilization of the most valuable assets in your data centers, your servers and storage. You can dramatically simplify your hardware, and you can have these rapid troubleshooting. You have this high, deep visibility in your network to do rapid troubleshooting, root cause analysis, and you can get all these benefits at a fraction of a cost compared to the Cisco's of the world or Junipers of the world. So that is the overall kind of the pre-sales pitch that I do when I go and talk to customers. I've given, obviously more details in this session because I know you guys are technical. I cover this presentation in about 45 minutes if I add telemetry as well, but I spend more time here. So just to make sure that you guys are ready, you guys understand, have more knowledge. So when you are talking to your customers, you have some material to back your claims as well. Any question at the moment, Mohit?
I think we're good to go. I believe people
Okay.
are like waiting for the lab.
Okay, perfect. So let's go towards the lab. So user interface. When you log on to a SONiC switch, the first interface that you will see, that is something we call click. It is like a Linux shell, right? We won't be spending much time on it, right? Because as I said, we built this user-friendly CLI interface that we want to spend more time on. Still, click is fully supported. It is available. And it can be used. It's the same way you configure community SONiC. So if anybody want to play around with it, happy for you to do that. It is supported. But if you're using this, then you will do your your layer 2 type configuration on click, and then you will have to move to FRR routing mode, go to VTY shell, and do your routing configuration in a different mode. So the commands interface is different between click and FRR, the different type of interfaces, different type of commands. But what we have done is we built this whole unified management framework into SONiC, and we made it, in my view, very user friendly. I'll wait and see how what you think about it. So how you access this SONiC CLI, you log on to the switch, and then you can type this command SONiC-CLI and enter. And that's it. You are now in the SONiC CLI mode. Internally, we use word clash for it as well. So you may, sometime you'll see, I'll probably be saying clash, but I'm referring to SONiC CLI. So SONiC CLI is similar to Cisco Juniper Arista type solution, right? It has got context sensitive help. It is a configuration mode, interface mode, router mode, and so on, right? There is a REST API option available as well, and I'll show you that. You can just log on to Swagger. So you just type into HTTPS. It's enabled by default, by the way. Do HTTPS, your switch IP, and then you do /UI, and it will show you the REST API Explorer. You click on any of these, and it will be opened in a Swagger interface. And here you have the option to, push your APIs directly, or you can, click on it and learn about API, read what the APIs are doing, and use it in your Ansible or whatever tools that you want to use. Postman, that also works. So these are open APIs. You will see there are SONiC APIs available here, and many of these models you will see there are OC Yang models, which Broadcom, open config models, which Broadcom built. So you have like a standard. You can use the same models that you have at Cisco or other solutions. This is the SONiC management framework at a high level, and I don't have, unfortunately, time to go over it in detail, but there is a web link available in this presentation. It is, there is a lot of details on GitHub, open source, so you can read about it to every bit what's happening, and there are presentations available on YouTube. There's a LinkedIn presentation on management framework, which is very good. I also did a presentation last year with AT&T where I touched upon the SONiC management framework. It's also available on YouTube. You can go there. But at a high level, you can see that you have options of, there's a REST client, there is a REST server here, so you can use REST APIs, you can use CLI. This is your Clish or SONiC CLI option, by the way. So if you can see the SONiC CLI is also using a REST client. So when you do a command, and we will do it in a minute, actually in the background, there is a REST call, which is happening. There's an API which is going in the background. And there is also a GNMI option there to configure it. This is our lab, guys. So I'm calling it a basics or fundamental lab. We will have a 3-switch topology, a very simple topology, leaf 1, leaf 2, and spine. I'm connecting 2 hosts. to these, and they're all available in GNS3. Very simple hosts are available there, which can just ping and trace route, those type of things. So very light topology that you can run on your laptop. What we will do is we'll create this three switch topology. Then we will verify, software version it's running. I'll show you different modes there are available. It's kind of the basics thing, how you look at interfaces, how you look at other stuff, management interface, IP addresses, so on, routing tables. I'll show you those commands. Then we will configure, these IP addresses. I would prefer that we use this setup that we have here, so it's easy to troubleshoot. But feel free, if you want to try, you can use IPN number. That also works. I love IPN number, by the way, for automation. It's very good. But today I'm just making it very simple. And then we will configure OSPF on it. And our end goal for this lab is to be able to ping from host A to host B. So we want to learn network 11 on this leaf. And obviously we want to advertise network 10 and learn it on leaf 2 and host B. From host A to host B, we can do this communication. So very simple communication, very simple configuration. These are the configuration commands. They are also available in that 2-page document that Mohit shared with you. In that document, there is full configuration for all 3 switches available. You can just copy paste and hopefully it will just work. But better would be that if you understand it and type it and configure it. Looking at the time, my suggestion would be, I don't know what you think, Mohit, my suggestion would be that I share my screen and show you this configuration on a base topology. You can follow it in the background, or you can just look at it just now and understand it and ask questions. And after this session and before tomorrow's session, you can play around it in your own time and send us an email if you have any questions.
That's a good approach. I like it, guys. If you have any issues with this approach, let us know in the chat. But I believe it's a good approach. Yes.
Okay, good. So you can see the configuration commands are very simple, right? So for example, to configure VLAN, you configure interface VLAN 10, enter.
I don't know if you can comment on something, please. Looks like one guy was missing a while, was struggling with GNS3 and loading the image. Is there anything you can help quick? Because the scope of this training, Nawab, is not to focus on how to configure GNS, honestly. But I don't know if there is anything you can do, you can help with.
If you can send the outputs that you have, Nawab, we can try and look at it. I'm not a GNS3 expert, right? As you can imagine, being part of Broadcom and then before that Cisco, I've always had a lot of luxury of a lot of equipment in my lab, right? But I personally, I started playing around with GNS3 and more. Probably I've made this small channel as well on YouTube, mainly so that everybody can play around with it, to democratize this, right?
Yeah,
so I can try and look at it and help.
Like I see the gentlemen and are sharing their experiences, which is good in the chat. So I hope it helps.
There you go.
Yeah, please. And Kamal,
Amar has.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'll be gone for 5 minutes. So I'll be offline for 5 minutes, but please continue. I'll be joining you back in 5 minutes.
No problem. Sure. So let's come out of the presentation and go to my GNS3. Hopefully you guys can still see my screen. So this is the topology I'm running, guys. It says IPN numbered, but let me delete it. Let me just actually type 1.1.1.0/30 is a subnet here. Actually, I will be configuring it. 2.1.1.0/30 is the subnet on this side. And we have 10.1.1 configured here, 10.1.1.10 configured here, and 11.1.1.10 configured here. It's in the topology. Okay, so let's log in to leave. Okay, so I've done a little bit of configuration here. So you can see the name is leaf1. Otherwise, it would say SONiC, I think. Okay, so can you see this first bit? I use the username and password. It's available in your user guide. By default, it's admin and your password. This is the click mode. I'm just gonna go zoom in a little bit. I hope this is better. If you can't read it properly, please send message in the. Amin is also saying the same problem. I think what Mamar did, Amin, if you want to maybe try that, maybe after the session, he said that unzip it and then load it. I think, yes, I think it makes sense because we upload it in the zipped form so that it's a smaller file. So when you download it, I think you should upload it or you should unzip it. Just double click and your whatever zip program that you're running, unzip program that you're running, it should just unzip it, open it, and then it will be a bigger file and use that file. I think you're right. I mean, Mamar, it has to be unzipped. Okay. But for now, I would suggest Amin and Nawab, if you can maybe follow me on the just here and understand and ask question, and you can try it out afterwards. But up to you. So this is the click. As I said, this Linux shell, we are going into SONiC CLI. So the command is SONiC CLI, and there we go. The host name here is, as I said, we already configured it, but you configure it in a very simple way. You go to configuration mode, and the command to configure host name is host name. And I can just do HOS and press the tab button, and you can see tab will complete the command. And if you put a question mark here, this is the command syntax help, right? Context sensitive help. You can get the syntax of the command by doing that. If you just do a question mark here, it will show you all the commands available, right? This is an older version, 3.1.2, I think that you have. Currently, we are at 4.0.2, I think, the latest one. So the new latest version has a lot more features, obviously, as you can imagine. But I think for what we are doing in this training, this solution, this version is good enough. Okay. I am in configuration mode now. I'm going to do, how do I check if the interfaces are connected okay and topology is fine? So just keep an eye on this topology. Sorry. You can have a look at this topology. I'm on leaf 1. So I will do show interface status. Right. Show interface status, maybe make it bigger. And you can see Ethernet 0 is down, 1 down, 2, everything is down, right? So I need to bring up Ethernet 0 and Ethernet 7. Ethernet 0 is connected to this host and Ethernet 7 to spine 1. So very simple command. I'll go to configuration mode, interface Ethernet 7, and no shutdown. Similarly, I'll go to, I can still type it, but better is to go out. Interface Ethernet 0 and no shutdown. Show interface status. And you can see Ethernet 0 is up and Ethernet 7 is up, right? This is GNS3, so that is why it is showing you up. If you're doing it on the real equipment, this won't come up until the other side is also up, as you can imagine. Admin up will be up, operational will be down, but GNS3, that's how it works in GNS3. Okay, so I'll quickly go to spine 1 as well. Which mode I am at the moment? Anybody want to guess? This is the click mode. Yeah. And how do I go from click to SONiC CLI? I will type the command SONiC-CLI. How to disable the login ZTP? Good question. This is the command. The command is, Sai, keep me honest on this one. I think it is ZTP disable. Sainath, can you type that command in the chat window? I can't remember it top of my head. I think it is config ZTP enable -1 hyphen. Yeah, this is the command. Sudo config ZTP disable. It is in the chat window. So Sainath will be our main trainer tomorrow. Today he's helping me out. Thanks, Sai. Okay. Feel free to answer any other question as well, mate, if they ask. Yeah. Okay. So on spine one, once again, show interface status. As you can imagine, they are down. So I need to bring up Ethernet 1 and Ethernet 2, right? So they are because in a sequence, I will do an intelligent thing here and I will do interface range Ethernet 1 to 2. Okay, and now I'll do no shutdown and that's it. Both should be up now. Show interface status, scroll up and you can see they are up now. Ethernet 1 and Ethernet 2 are up. Okay, and let me do the same on leaf 3. Oh, sorry, leaf 2. I'll put it just here. And zoom in, admin, and the password. Okay, how do I go to SONiC CLI? I type SONiC CLI, as simple as that. Same drill here, right? So interface 0 and interface 7 I need to bring up. I won't even spend time to look at it. Interface Ethernet 7, not shutdown, no shutdown. And interface Ethernet 0, no shutdown. Okay, LLDP will take a little bit of time, but this is the command, show LLDP table. That will show you all the LLDP neighbors in one table. The other command is show LLDP neighbor, and that will be like looking at the detail of every neighbor. But as I said, it will take a little bit of time for it to converge. Let's look at leaf 1. Does it know about its neighbor now? Show LLDP table on leaf 1, and it does. It says my Ethernet 7 is connected to spine 1 and Ethernet 1 of spine 1. Ethernet leaf 1, Ethernet 7, Ethernet 1. So that looks good. We go to spine and do show LLDP table, and it can see two neighbors now, as you can see, leaf 1 and leaf 2. So spine is connected to both. So this looks good. So it means my topology is good. This should be better now. Yes, so it is connected to spine 1. All looks fine. The next step is to do the interface configuration. So I will be configuring 1.1 this subnet here on leaf 1 and 2.1.1 on this between spine 1 and leaf 2. What I'm also going to do is I'm going to configure a VLAN 10 on leaf 1, right? And then I will configure that VLAN on this Ethernet 0 switch, Ethernet 0 interface, so that this PC1 is connected as an access client on an access port in VLAN 10. So I'm going to configure my leaf for it. And here is the configuration for it. So this is the full configuration. This is the OSPF configuration. I'll come back to it. I think maybe for the first switch, let me show you this step by step. I think that's better. So for leaf 1, now how do I configure VLAN on SONiC switch? If I do show VLAN, what is the command? Show VLAN. Yeah, just show VLAN. There is no VLAN here. Okay. This is how you configure it. Interface, VLAN, and the VLAN number. And that's it. You don't even have to configure an IP. Just interface VLAN 10. Your VLAN is configured now. But in this case, we want it to be a layer 3 VLAN because it will be the default gateway. So I will do IP address, and this is the IP I want to configure here, 10.1.1/24. And that's it. It is configured. Show VLAN now. VLAN 10 is available. Why it is inactive? Anybody want to give me an idea? Show IP interfaces. Up, down. Why it is down? Admin is up. Why it is down? Very simple answer. There is no port in this VLAN. So this VLAN need to be part of a port. You can do, what is that command? No auto state to bring it up, but I'm not going to use that. I'm going to assign it to the interface. So I'll go to an Ethernet 0. So go to interface Ethernet 0. And then I will assign switch port, and it could be a trunk port, it could be an access port, right? We want to configure access port. Switch port access, and which VLAN? VLAN 10. That's it. Now
we got
check again.
saying that these commands look like the Cisco commands.
These commands look very, very much like
Cisco
commands.
It's an easy transition in knowledge, right? Very easy transition in knowledge.
That's what I say. I say if somebody knows how to configure Cisco switch, it will take them 1 week to know everything about SONiC. Configuration wise, it's that straightforward. Even 1 week is more, to be honest. But yeah, okay. So show IP interfaces. There you go. It's up now. Yeah. Now let's configure IP on Ethernet 7. So configuration mode, interface, Ethernet 7, IP address 1.1.1.1/30. And we have already done no shut here, so that should be up. Let's configure the IPs on the spine. So configuration mode, interface, Ethernet. So we have 1 and 2, right? So I'll configure 1. IP address 1.1.1.2 on this side. And on interface Ethernet 2, this is a different subnet. So in here, I want 2.1. That's it. IPs are configured. I go to my leaf 2. Here I want to configure 2.1.1.2. And on this side, I will be configuring VLAN 11. So I'll go here, leaf 2 configuration mode, interface VLAN 11, IP address 11.1.1.1, interface Ethernet 0. Remember what we're doing here? We are making this interface a layer 2 access port. So you remember the command, yeah? Switch port access VLAN 11 in this case. Second thing is we configure the Ethernet 7. So we go to configuration mode, interface Ethernet 7, IP address 2.1.1.2/30. And that's it. Show IP interfaces. So Ethernet 7 and VLAN 11, they're both up. Let me ping my remote side, which is remote interface, which is spine 1, 2.1.1.1. And I can ping it from leaf 1, ping 1.1.1.2, which is the remote side, this port of spine, and I can ping it. So this looks good so far, right? The next thing we want to do here is we want to configure OSPF, and we want to advertise our network 10 from this side and network 11 from this side, so both of these sides can ping each other. How do we configure OSPF? Very simple. You configure router OSPF. You don't have to configure router ID, but it's a best practice to configure it so you can identify. Ideally, you should configure a loopback interface with the IP and use that as the router ID. And then you go to the interface and configure command IP OSPF area and whatever is the area. And that's it. This is an optional command, IP OSPF point to point, network point to point. It gives you two benefits. Number one, when you configure this command, Ethernet interface by default is considered a multi-access. So there is a DR-BDR election. When you configure this command, there won't be any DR-BDR election, right? So that's good, right? So that, because otherwise there's a 40-second waiting time before the link comes up on the Ethernet side. So you take that away. The second benefit is on multi-access port, as you know, there are not only type 1, but type 2 LSAs are also sent. When you configure point-to-point, type 2 LSAs won't be sent, which makes sense, right? On a VLAN interface, obviously, once again, the right choice is to configure VLAN interface as a passive interface, right? I hope that all of you are well versed with OSPF, so I'm not going in detail about all these things. They're all best practices, whether you're using Cisco or Juniper or Arista or SONiC. They're OSPF best practices. Okay, so this is the very simple configuration that we have. I will build this configuration on Notepad so I can copy paste very quickly, right? So I'll configure a loopback interface. So IP, not IP, sorry. It will be interface loopback 0. Sorry, it's very small. Zoom in. Hopefully you can read it now. And on the first switch, I will configure IP address 192.168.0.1. Okay, then I will configure OSPF. There you go. Oh no. So this will be 192.168.0.1. On leaf 1, we want interface Ethernet 7, and what else? Ethernet 0 as well, right? We can just do redistribute connected, obviously, but I'm just going to use I'm going to enable it on the port for this lab. Ethernet 0. And that's it. That's how you will configure your OSPF. So we go to leaf 1, configuration mode, and fingers crossed and paste it. Paste. Looks like it was accepted. You can do show run OSPF to just look at the OSPF configuration. We can do show OSPF interface, etc. But at this point, I'll just save time. Let's configure it on spine as well. Spine configuration will be simpler, right? Let me just give it .10 to change the IP. It's not Ethernet 7, it's 1 and 2. And 2. Hope it makes sense to everyone. If I'm going too fast, apologies, let me know. I will slow down, but I'm just looking at time and I'm trying to cover everything within the allocated time. There you go. So hopefully OSPF is properly configured. Show run OSPF. It is running. Show IP OSPF neighbor. There you go. There is one neighbor. And this is the benefit of assigning the router ID. We know that 0.1 is leaf 1. So it is up. Let's quickly go to leaf 2 and do the configuration. For leaf 2, it will be very similar. Just change the router ID. And it is Ethernet 7 and Ethernet 0, isn't it? Just double check again. Ethernet 7 and Ethernet 0, correct. Okay, leaf 2, copy paste. Show IP OSPF neighbor, nothing yet. Show run, come on. Show run OSPF, it is. Show IP OSPF interface. Ethernet 7, why not Ethernet 0? should show Ethernet 0 as well. Ethernet. Okay, I need to check that bit. Show IP OSPF neighbor. Yes, so neighbor is up. Good. Am I learning any route? Show IP route. 2.1.1. It's learning. It's not learning 10. Network 10 is not here, so let's troubleshoot it. Show IP OSPF interface. Ah, my bad. My bad. You're not supposed to run OSPF on a layer 2 interface. Has anybody pointed it out already? Access port, the port will accept transmit. There's sign out. Okay. I'm going to blame somebody else. Sainath, you should have told me. So guys, I made a mistake here, right? Obviously, you configure OSPF on a routing interface, right? So not Ethernet 0. It should be VLAN 10 and VLAN 11. VLAN 10 on the leaf 1 side, configuration mode, and VLAN 11 on the leaf 2 side. There we go, leaf 2. Okay, so hopefully this will be better now. If I go and check it on spine, show IP route, and that's better, right? You can see network 10 and you're learning network 11. Good. If I go to leaf 1, show IP route, can I learn network 11? And I can. 11, I learned through OSPF. Ping 11.1.1.1, and I can ping it. And if I go to leaf 2 and do ping 10.1.1.1, I can ping it. So that's your basic SONiC lab. Obviously, I can show you a lot more things, but just conscious of time, I think I will leave it here. I would encourage you that when you are testing it, ping from these PCs as well, right? In GNS3, this is a good feature. It's just ping command, ping and do it, and it will work. But with these remarks, I will hand back to Mohit. Please let us know, give us feedback. How was the day one? As I said, tomorrow will be like how I ended today. It will be more on the money. It will be more in detail. But let us know how you want us to go, slower, faster, and we will adapt. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, guys. We're happy, and it's a great one. Thank you, Liam. This is perfect. I believe tomorrow Sainath will be with us as a panelist. So Sainath, if you don't mind, send me email or share your email, or maybe Kamran can share so that I can add you as a panelist. And for the trainees and attendees, please, whatever you feel that you want us to do, please share it by email. And we will take care of every note that you're sending to us. Tomorrow will be with Sainath, and it will be where we ended, like the lab, and we'll continue from that angle. Okay, great.
I think there's an interesting question here by Ramzi. I can answer it maybe after the recording so everybody can leave, or I can answer it tomorrow. Up to you, Mohit. Should we continue for a few more minutes to answer some questions?
The question, guys, you can leave. We know, and we have also another question. You're free. It's up to you guys. We will stay for a minute because there is also Muhammad. He wants to ask a question. Go ahead, please.
Yeah. So Ramzi asked a question. Interesting. He's saying, it's confusing to call them leaf spine. Why can't we call it them distribution and access? So we can call it whatever we are comfortable with, Ramzi. The thing is that these terms, access and distribution, they come with certain loaded information that we have from the past. Distribution switches especially. You can call leaf switches as access. I don't mind that, right? Calling spine as distribution, I have a problem with that. Why? Because traditionally, the distribution switches are where you generally have your layer 2, layer 3 boundary. Traditionally, distribution switches are associated with your policy implementation, right? That is not what we do with spine. Leaf switches are the intelligent switches. Leaf switches are the one which are doing the heavy work with more intelligent work. Spine switches are simply switching things very quickly, and that's it, right? So, and then when we talk about leaf and spine, we are referring to clause topology typically, right? In that topology, typically you don't expect spine to spine connection. Whereas in distribution, when you call them distribution, you would expect MC lag, or you would expect a layer 3 type connection between them. So that is why when we are moving to clause networks now, my recommendation or suggestion would be that we also learn to use the terminology of this architecture. We call them leaf spine, so everybody understand we are talking about a clause topology where leaf is performing certain role and spine is performing another such specific role. I hope I answered the question.
Great, and we have Mr. Muhammad. Go ahead, you can talk now. And you can unmute yourself. And Muhammad Mu'inuddin, you can please unmute yourself. I think maybe there is a challenge. There is a challenge in that. No issues, guys. So we're meeting again tomorrow, same time. We really appreciate that. It's a very exciting session. I really cannot find the words that describe how happy I am and how appreciative I am for the Broadcom support. It's the first training in our region for open networking, and we're happy that it happened this way. Thank you for participation. It is the future of open networking. It is the future. We've seen what Gartner said, 40% coming networks will be based on SONiC. So it is the future for definitely. See you tomorrow. The session is recorded. It will be uploaded to our YouTube. We will share all of these details later on. You can come back to us by email for any comments.